One other thing about tournaments, though, a lot of these professionals, they seem to be clamoring for the high percentage payout at the top, the super top heavy structures. I'm all for making them more like a cash game. I think the flatter the better, personally. I mean, I'm not a tournament expert, so maybe I'm missing something, but you listen to a guy like Limon, who seems to make a lot of sense to me. He talks about how when you have these super top heavy payouts, a lot of the times when someone wins something like that, they're yanking all of that money out of the poker economy and they're making a big purchase, or they're putting it away into mutual funds or something like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of known as a Grinch about tournaments. Every time my friends are entering them, I'm like, go light your money on fire. And they're like, thanks for the support.
It's just it's a complete waste. And what all of these fuckers end up doing, because like, this is the problem with the tournament. Well, there's a lot of problems with tournament culture. Number one being that it sucks money out of the poker economy. And this has been proven over... Like, the poker boom is over. I think we all know that. And we're on the downside of it, which is fine.
And people are, like, a little delusional, and they're hoping a second boom might come, and it could, but I don't think so, but go on.
There is no second. There's no second boom. It's like, people who are hoping for a second boom of poker are like the same people who thought there was going to be a second boom of the hula hoop. There's going to be, it was a fad. There's a second boom of the fucking hula hoop. There's not going to be any second fucking boom. The first boom was a fad. It's like, I don't know what you're related. Like, I'll just say this in general. In general, most poker players' relationship with their family is their mom and dad or whatever. They're like, are you fucking kidding me? You're going to be a professional poker player? This is the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard in my life. But then, when the boom came... You had like your like your mom, your grandma is calling you, like, oh, hey, grandma, what's up? Are you going to be playing the main? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? When my grandma's asking me if I'm be playing the main, that's never going to happen again, ever in the history of the world.
Hilarious. Well, see, I was busy spending like 11 years in school, so I missed out on a lot of the good old days, and I don't know. I get reminded of it, like, at least once a week. Tables. Everyone knows to troll me for that. That I wasn't playing like when I could have been like really crushing.
You might have been too young. I don't know.
No. I'm 31. I wasn't too young. But that being said, not that I want any of you moving to Florida if you're skilled at poker. Florida poker's super soft. And poker's really generally pretty soft when it's new, and they're going to be opening up new casinos along the East Coast over the next few years, and there'll be tons of people that don't have, the experience that the people have out in Vegas and California, where, of course, there's still great games in those places, too, but poker's been there too long. So,
a lot of people tell me that Florida poker is great, and I've only played in Florida one time. I played at the Magic City Casino there. And
of all places, that's a little funny as a choice.
Well, here's the reason why, and maybe you can shed light on this. The reason why is because these casinos have private games inside the casino, and if you're invited, these are amazing games. But if you're not invited, you can't play. Is that basically what I noticed when I was there?
Right. So... I believe, and I should know a lot about this because I ran one, it's not technically legal to have a private game in let's say a Seminole casino, like a Coconut Creek or a Seminole Hard Rock Hollywood.
Right.
However, there is a gigantic private game at Seminole Hard Rock Hollywood. They claim people got grandfathered into it. I was running a private game at Coconut Creek. They were sort of getting around it by having me... give them the list ahead of time kind of thing, and people were, camping out in 2-5 waiting for seats and stuff.
Right.
There are other casinos. I think Gulfstream Casino, I heard you have to pay them for, the table, and then they'll give you the dealer.
Okay.
But that's another long topic. Like, the types of people that run these private games sometimes are maybe the shadiest, and that's saying a lot, because poker players are shady in general.
Right.
So, like, I ran into people trying to, steal my players, spread rumors that there's cheating in my game.
Of course, that happens to me all the time. I host games too. Yeah. I host games too, so I deal with all the same fucking nonsense.
And they thought, oh, who's this little girl? She hasn't been around that long. She's never won a tournament. How good can she be? So we're gonna crush her private game. And so I just took it to another casino, and it's pretty drama-free at the moment.
You know what they're doing now on the West Coast? There's a guy named Jean-Robert Balland, and he's like the biggest private game in a public casino host that I've ever heard of, because he hosts the game at Ivy's room in the Aria. And it's supposed, and it's not a private game, but they host it as a private game. And Daniel Negreanu even talked about how they just lock the seats, they put names on the seats, they tell everybody the seat's locked so nobody else can sit, and that's how they keep people out of the game that they don't want to play.
Sure, and I've spoken to someone that plays in that game, and that's exactly what they said occurs. So
you want to hear what they're doing in Los Angeles? That's really fucking sick. Let me tell you.
What's that?
In Los Angeles, what they've been doing is the one guy who has access to the whale will set up a game, right? But what he'll do to keep other people out of the game is he'll set it up as a freeze out. So he sets it up as a freeze out with a rebuy, okay? So then, if you're not there when the first hand is dealt, and there's no possible way that any random pro will ever be there when the first hand is dealt, you can't sit in the game, not because it's private, but because it's a one-table freeze-out.
I mean, that's kind of disturbing and brilliant at the same time. So.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. I just have boundaries and ethics, where as opposed to some people running these private games don't, and I never let anybody sit in my game that I was getting a piece of or anything like that, whereas that was occurring in all these other games. It's bad for the integrity of the game. It's bad for the game as a whole. I'm not even going to give that speech. I've given it so many times.
Right.
Because so many pros have approached me in South Florida and said, hey, how much do you want for a seat in your game?
Right.
So now I've got this long list in my head of people that, want to pay me off for a seat in my game. I just think they've all been turned down. So.
Right. Here's something I wanted to discuss with you. We're going to go back now to the googly eyes, and when you're being watched, you tilt harder.
That's fine.
In my opinion, playing a lot of poker over the years, and I thought about this before I read your article, but your article sort of crystallized it for me. When a guy sits in the game who normally tilts really hard and spazzes off a lot of money, but on this particular day, he is in his own little world. He's very quiet. Maybe, he's watching something on his iPhone or iPad or whatever have you. I have noticed that if you get that guy into the game, if you say something like, hey, do you know this guy is this, or this guy is that, this guy, or if you say, hey, buddy, you won, I heard that after I left last week, you won $15,000, whatever. Once if you get them into the game and get eyes on them and get them actually into the game, they will go back to their normal self and start spazzing out and tilting and so on and so forth.
Sure, there's so many forms of tilt, but one of the more common forms, especially in South Florida where there's a lot of young guys, is just tilt because of ego. And so I play with players rather consistently who for some reason feel entitled to win every pot. And if they don't, they need to let everybody know if they how that person made a mistake or what great. Inform people to play better, good idea. Or they feel the need to berate somebody who came there to have a good time because that person's that on them.
Right.
And I can think of several people off the top of my head that kind of fit what you're talking about, where if you were to pull them into a game and now suddenly people know that they're in the game and it's them and they're watching them, they're going to try to put on a show.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's great. It's great. I love it.
You have to
let everybody on tilt.
like sometimes you have to let these guys know that they're on stage, because once they know they're on stage, they lose their minds.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason that, like, I've talked before on other shows about sort of like the advantages of being a female poker player.
Right.
And I think that, like, one of the other, well, there's a lot of advantages, but one of them is just that it's kind of going to exacerbate or, like, bring out whatever inherent tilt somebody has if your presence at the table is in any way affecting them.
Right.
So, like, if they are attracted to you, perhaps, or maybe it's not that. Maybe they're so, like, there's so much machismo that the thought of losing a pot in front of other men to a woman
Right.
is, like, going to put them on tilt.
Yes.
And maybe they wouldn't have tilted that day if the woman hadn't been in the game.
Right.
So I kind of love that, too. I mean, when people are willing to, you know, make negative EV decisions based on emotion and thus tilt, God bless. It's not my problem.
Let's